is Alan, and welcome to the Quality Improvement Vlog, Toronto Island edition. So the topic of today's video is quality improvement projects. How to select a good topic. So this video is for you if you are new to quality improvement and potentially want to get a quality improvement project off the ground. This video is for you if you felt clinically frustrated by something that you've noticed, an observation, and you want to know how to take that frustration, channel it into a project that might improve the underlying system. So to start, I'm going to talk about a few pitfalls, so commonly seen don'ts that often kill quality improvement projects. So the first pitfall is picking a conventional research project as opposed to a quality improvement project. So the topic of video number 1 of this channel was quality improvement versus conventional research, how to distinguish the two. I'll add a link in the description and you can click on that for more. But very briefly here, I'll just say that in general, for a quality improvement project, you want a clear outcome measure, an aim statement that is generally well accepted because you're going to be executing fairly focused change theory in order to improve that measure. And so everyone's generally got to agree that it's a good idea. So a couple of different major categories of measures that fall into this description. One is a measure that has very good evidence behind it. Examples would be any of the Choosing Wisely Canada projects. For example, transfusing 1 unit of packed red blood cells as opposed to 2 would be an example. The second category of measure that would fit this description are measures that have general consensus that they are best practice behaviors. So an example of this would be a clinic wait time. There's not really a lot of evidence behind reducing clinic wait times, but it's just a generally accepted notion that it's a good idea. So the second major pitfall when selecting a quality improvement project is choosing a project that is too large. So there are a few different underestimations that happen when choosing a topic. First major underestimation is the amount of time it will take to actually do a diagnostic phase and understand your problem as fully as you need to understand it in order to solve it. So this will require several quality improvement tools, fishbones, Pareto diagrams, etc., which will be the topics of upcoming videos. Second underestimate is the amount of time it will take to engage the number of stakeholders required to execute the change ideas that you're going to have. And the third major underestimate is the amount of time it's going to take to iterate, to go through different versions of your intervention and tailor it to your local environment so that it actually does result in improvement. And again, that requires engagement of generally a fairly significant number of stakeholders. So my practical advice to you would be to pick a project that is smaller than you were initially planning, and pick a project where you have a relatively large amount of influence over your local ecosystem. So this, for example, may be choosing to improve a specific measure in one clinic on one day with one provider, as opposed to trying to do the same thing with all clinics or for your entire division. So start small, find what works, and then spread it from there. So the last major pitfall that I'm going to discuss is choosing a project that requires intensive manual data collection. When you're finished your quality improvement project, you're going to want to display your data as improvement over time on something called a run chart, which again will be the topic of a future video. So very briefly, a run chart has time as the x-axis, your outcome measure on the y-axis, and at least 15 points of data collection in order to demonstrate improvement over time. If you're going to be collecting data over 15 different points, it's very important that this data is not onerous to collect. Otherwise, that's an unrealistic project. Good would be if the data is easy to collect. Even better would be if the data is automatically collected for you. So our example of the Choosing Wisely Canada project on blood transfusions, 1 unit transfusions as opposed to 2, our proportion of 1 unit transfusions is automatically collected for us. And so data collection is easy. So those are a few of the don'ts, a few of the pitfalls. So now what are some of the do's? What should you be looking at in terms of choice of topic? So the do's here, and the key here, is to pay attention to when you're feeling frustrated clinically. Those situations are generally flags that there's a system issue underneath. And my first piece of advice would be to pick a topic that you generally are a little bit emotional about, because that emotion is going to motivate you to actually do the legwork to fix this problem. So a few of the different categories of projects that fit this bill. Best practices that are not being followed. So back in the day, the classic example was patients not being put on aspirin or beta blockers after they've had myocardial infarction. Second major category, things falling through the cracks, tests not getting ordered, follow-ups not getting booked. Basically, the system failing to deliver high fidelity care. Third is an exploration of patient safety incident. So these are generally opportunities to take a look at the system and see where it could be improved. Fourth would be frustration due to an unacceptable wait time, for example, for a diagnostic test or a follow-up appointment. And lastly would be inappropriate distribution of a scarce resource, for example, telemetry packs on the medicine ward. So those are a few of the do's, a few of the don'ts. Now practically, how do you take these and turn them into a realistic quality improvement project? So the key here, again I mentioned, is to be reflective. So if you go about your day, pay attention to when you're feeling frustrated or angry about something clinical. You can ask yourself these questions. So is there one of these markers of poor quality lying underneath? Is there a best practice that's not being followed? Is there an unacceptable wait time or inappropriate distribution of a scarce resource? If the answer is yes, you can ask yourself, now is there a behavior associated with this that would potentially address this performance issue? So in the case of aspirin and beta blockers not getting prescribed, the behavior that you want is your physician prescribing those medications at some point prior to discharge. And lastly, the question is, the behavior, if enacted, would there be general consensus that this behavior is a good idea? And of course, if there's a good evidence base, that answer should be yes. And even if there's not, is there a general consensus in your local group that this is our best practice? So if the answer to all those things is yes, then you might have a good quality improvement project, but you still got to do your pitfalls test. So is the project too large? Is it actually a conventional research project? And is data collection onerous? And if the answer to those questions is no, then congratulations. You have yourself a worthwhile quality improvement project that is realistic and can improve the way that you deliver care to your patients, and probably will improve the quality of your work life as well. So how to do that exactly, how to get your quality improvement project off the ground, will be the subject of the next few videos. I'm looking forward to recording those for you. I will see you again. Signing off from the Toronto Islands. Peace. We're not gonna find it on the no way.